Cool. How many of you have used Angular before? Awesome, that makes it easier. Who has used Firebase before? Awesome, I can't lie to the rest of you. Oh, I can. Do you use Realtime Database or Firestore? Firestore? Awesome. Who's used Realtime Database? Awesome, this is going to be even better. I can lie to the rest of you. My favorite thing about Firebase is it's so fast to get up and going. Let me log in and then I promise to still. Now you can look at my family and you can tell the best looking one is hidden by the leaf. Awesome. So I want to focus on Firebase first, and then we'll move into Angular and how we integrate. My hope is to focus on intro. If you're an expert in Firebase, I apologize. I hope you like the food more than the presentation. The thing I really love about Firebase is that it's really fast to get up and going, but you need to know several things about why one or the other and which way to go, and there's pros and cons of both. Everybody can hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, so hopefully you can see a bit of this. There's two flavors as you go into Firebase. There's a Cloud Firestore and a real-time database. Realtime is the original database. Some people call it old and clunky. I actually love it, and I'm going to show you why. There is a paid version and has a lot more features in Cloud Firestore, which is awesome. But the thing I want you to realize is that there's still some benefits to using the real-time database, and we'll go through those. So I would really recommend you go through this. Trevin, can I give you some links to post afterwards? Awesome. So I'm going to quickly go through this. I hope we're not going to spend much in docs and go straight into to some demos and how to get through it. The main thing that I like about Firebase is offline support. You're using a mobile app, iOS and Android. You can do this for web. You can build it in Go. You can all sorts of language support. But I love that you can sync and do offline support. That I've been using this for 5 years and haven't paid a dime or given my credit card to use a NoSQL online hosted database is something that you should clap for, not for me, for Google. iOS and Android really easy to integrate. The web client is even faster. The APIs and the NPM packages are really easy to use. If you look at presence, this is one of the biggest places where you'll notice the difference. If I'm using the real-time database and I need to know if my client is online or offline while I'm using my app, Cloud is a little bit trickier to use. Real-time comes built in. It's pretty easy to integrate. It isn't supported natively. There is ways to go about it. You can do it. It's just not as easy. The trick about the real-time database, the thing that drives me bonkers, is sorting and filtering. Normally, I'm a C# guy. I've done C# for 10 plus years and moved into the JavaScript Angular side over the past 4 or 5 years. But I'm used to working with SQL, and I'm used to having sorting, filtering, joins, all sorts of stuff. It's way easier for me normally. With real-time database, you don't get to sort and filter at the same time. You do one or the other. That is a big gotcha that I really struggle with. You can do both. You can work around it, but it uses deep queries, and it's really easy to use that way. On the sorting and filtering and the index queries, the queries are indexed by default on the Cloud Firestore, which makes things super fast. You can add in indexes on the real-time database, but you do it manually and you know where you're going. You can do transactions. There's just so much stuff that you'll see in here. I have not gone scalable. I do all stuff. This is all for my personal work. I don't do any of this for linear contacts because, amazingly enough, we're a Microsoft shop. But we do use a ton of Angular. And my favorite thing, again, is the pricing, because with the real-time database, you only get charged for bandwidth and storage, but only at a higher rate. So when you sign up and get it going, this is a free database and you don't have to worry about web APIs and everything going. Firebase is a NoSQL and it has awesome APIs to interact with that I think are really easy to use, and I think it's something you'll like to go forward. So let's look at it and see what it looks like. There is an awesome NPM package called angularfire. I'll send out these links, and it's pretty awesome. The code is pretty simplistic to look through. Actually, let's just jump straight in. Simple integration. I'll send you a link to my Git repo. This is not production code. It does not have tests. I did this over the past week to demo, so I didn't have to show the larger project that I'm working through. Judge my code away. But Angular is really a great tool to be able to use with Firebase that integrates really well. The main thing is to grab the NPM package in your package JSON, This is all in the README and all the documentation, but essentially all you're adding is a link to Firebase here and an Angular a dependency here as you add it into your package JSON. When you sign into console.firebase.google.com, you sign up with your Gmail account. You specify a new project, and then you get awesome settings like this that gives you an API key and an auth domain. Anybody who uses this on the video later is more than welcome to play with whatever you can see here. The app that I wrote to build with this interacts with the Firebase service this way. Essentially, everyone's comfortable with observables and promises? Yeah. I'm not used to demoing on my Mac. This is harder one-handed. The trick is one-handed. Better? Awesome. So the simple way you're going to interact with these, I created a Firebase service as a Angular service. Essentially, there's an input that I will expose as an observable phrase. And essentially, in my controller, you're just integrating with this Angular Fire database that comes as you import these objects directly. And I can show you through the app module. Essentially, in the app module, you'll add these two imports for Angular Fire module and the Angular Fire database module. And again, this is specific to the real-time database. If you're using Cloud Firestore, you just use different imports. The intent of the app, and maybe I should show you what it looks like before we go into code. I'm learning French, so this is me messing with it. Again, don't judge my API or my UI. The intent for me was to say, hey, I've learned a phrase and I want to be able to throw stuff on. One of my friends did a quick Angular and Firebase app for Family Feud and just added questions on, got data, and then they were just bouncing through questions. It's just a simple way to have a database to throw data in and out. So if you look, I've added some phrases in English and French of je vais dormir is I'm going to sleep. But I want to be tested on that, and I want to be able to add new data. So I can add a phrase that says, I've never been scared of doing a live demo. That's not true, so I won't say it in French. But essentially, you'll add content here, and then you can submit and add those. You can have a list that will show those phrase lists. And then you can do a quiz that I obviously broke my demo, which is why the demo doesn't work. Anyway, don't change your Git repo 30 minutes before the demo. Okay, so let me walk you through essentially how it's added. So we looked at the add component. Essentially, it's a really simple form submit. I have a form group that has two inputs, your English phrase and your French phrase, and a submit button. UI easily added enough. On the back end, you integrate this Firebase service that I added here. So stepping back, we added the Angular Fire database and the Fire list and the Fire object, which we'll talk about in just a second, and then injected in the Angular Fire database, and then in my TS from my add component, I'm just calling these methods. So this is just my generic service. Firebase uses essentially two different things. The cloud Firestore is based on documents. Everything is a document. You can dump JSON in and out. However you want to store it, you're just throwing in documents. In the real-time database, it's based on lists. You want to be able to have, it's one big tree. You have your main item at the top of the header, and then you're adding stuff underneath. So as we go into add, the UI from Firebase looks something like this. It's just a big tree of, sorry for my French. I have phrases that I add. Dynamically, it adds this. It adds a key dynamically, so you don't have to worry about adding IDs. It does that dynamically. I add content under that item, and it dynamically adds each of those as I click on add, which is really helpful. Then when I go to my list, I'm pulling these items. It lists from those keys, and then displays the data afterwards. So again, from the app, anyone want to debug during the middle of the demo? I'm getting two data, but I haven't come through. I can go back and pull another repo. Essentially, after these are pulled in, from this get phrase list. So this is how real-time database works. You'll specify an angularfire list or an angularfire object. You can take a list of items, obviously, or a specific item if you know you're going by the key or a specific ID. And it's strongly typed. But when you pass in the type, you don't want to pass in an array of that type. You just want the name of that type. And then you'll take the Fire database and then take a list of what I call phrases, save it under the phrase node, and then I prefer to order by key and limit to the first count. So essentially, phrase list is saying, hey, give me the top 10. So I pass in 10, it goes and grabs that item, and then returns those. You can order by key, you can order by child, you can order by text. There's a lot of awesome ways to do filtering and sorting, but again, not both at the same time. The other thing to know about, so one of my Firebase Angular test projects was a blog. Elasticsearch, not fun. Firebase does not support it default in real-time database. There are some extra features in Cloud Firestore, but you can use Elasticsearch in other third-party tools and come in and make those work really well together, but it does not come by default. But I was really hoping to show you the app. Any questions so far before I move? I'm told I talk really fast, and that's my number one. Any comments, any questions? Awesome. So let's talk about integration. So when you come into the README, I'll give you the repo and you can take this straight up. Again, a lot of the data where I started was this awesome article on Medium, which was just a quick 5-minute, hey, put the environment variables in that you get from Firebase into your environment so that it knows how to interact with the database. Grab the angularfire repo or grab it as a package and integrate that there. And then I've put in links as well to be able to say, hey, what's the reason I should pick Firestore versus a real-time database, which we were looking at before. And this is the one that I really like most, is demonstrations of how to do read and write coming in. If you do choose to go Firestore, there's an awesome quick start here as well, even though the demo and the app use real-time database. In my demo and while I'm testing this, I remove all authorization because it makes it way easier to get started. And obviously this isn't production code. This is just my play app. So that's what I do. But again, it's the package JSON, the app module with some imports and importing those modules, and then a quick data layer, and you're up and ready to go. When I went from the apps that I've played with for a while and then put this together, it was up in under 30 minutes. It's really quick to have a database that you can directly interact with, have pretty quick CRUD operations, and go from there. So I'd highly recommend it. That's pretty much the end of my demo. Is there any questions or things that I can help answer as you're looking to integrate, why you'd use it, or applications? No. I don't think so. It's okay. The thought was good. Wow. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them after. But that's my presentation. Thank you. I haven't. Do you use it regularly? Sure. Sure. Cool. Yeah, you'd be surprised how much awesome stackplates there are for full integrations of this, whether demos from to-do lists, all that stuff. It sounds like there's several great types to it. Cool.
Okay, thanks so much. And I've got a little bit more preparation work to do with getting the survey ready for tonight and the raffle. So I vote that first I want to ask if anyone has a lightning talk, something off the cuff, 5 minutes about any kind of technical topic or any other topic that they'd like to give on very short notice, to give me a little bit of time to finalize what I need to do. We'll let that sink in for a minute. Be brave, you can do it. And then, all right. Yeah, Tyler, come up and do that. It'd be awesome to hear that story.
So my name's Tyler. I'm going to get out of the projector. I'm co-founded a startup called Server. Essentially, Server is a mobile app that is for casual dining restaurants. You can use your phone to order your food, check out reviews on individual items, and request service, refills, napkins, etc., and pay from your phone. We just launched Monday with our first restaurant down in Provo. We're going to take it slow. We're starting there for a couple of weeks before we roll out to our other partners that we have lined up. The app I started building end of October from scratch and is now released into production. So it's about 4 months from nothing to launched using Flutter and Firebase. I'm happy to answer any questions or share my experience with Flutter, the good, the bad, the not so pretty, whatever. But if you guys are interested and want to check it out, serverapp.co is our website. And Provo Center Street, K's Japanese Kitchen, you can go try it out. I'm happy to talk about any technical questions or anything like that. Well, to be honest, I wasn't super familiar with Firebase, and they had someone kind of start on some stuff before I came on board, and they're like, hey, do you want to use Firebase? And I was like, let me check it out. And so I looked at it, and I was like, hey, this is actually kind of cool, because most of my background is more enterprise. So I did a lot with Java as my background, and relational databases and stuff. And so I didn't do a lot in serverless environments. And I guess I went with it because it struck me as being a very agile tool, something that would allow me to get up and running very quick, as our demonstration today showed. And I found that to be true. Totally makes things very quick and easy to get started. Just me. Yep, just me. I've got some co-founders, but they're marketing and business, so. So it's on Android and iOS. I'm gonna start building kind of an admin application for web. I have a skeleton, but there's really no functionality there yet. So we've got 2 apps. One is for the restaurant and one is for the customer, and those are both Android, iOS. But as far as the first part of your question, QA. Honestly, the biggest difference to get it running on both was iOS package signing, bundle signing or whatever. Just their security and when you're building and deploying whatnot. As far as functionality between apps, it was pretty seamless. So we're still within the free limit. So Firebase, as it was mentioned, Firebase has a free tier and then paid tiers. We're still within the free tier. As far as when we're going to hit where we need to start paying, it's kind of difficult with Firestore because they don't do their pricing on bandwidth. It's more on the number of reads and number of writes. My best guess is we would probably be a dozen restaurants with 5 to 10 transactions a day, I think, before we start hitting that. But that's just kind of a ballpark. Nice. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, we're the K's restaurant. We're going to be there for probably 2 weeks, just as we let things, let bugs come out and whatnot, since it's our first restaurant. We want to be in our we've got 6 others lined up in Provo that we want to be in before the end of the month. So, and then from there, it's just a matter of, just kind of moving. We've got some in Salt Lake, but we're just kind of going to move geographically. Currently, it's manual. Yeah, so that's the admin app I had mentioned. That's where we're going to get into more of the importing menus and kind of making things more automatic. But right now, so one of the things my partners do is they're hand jamming in data to get stuff. So they create a few bugs doing that, but you know what? To get started, it's fine. All right, any other questions? Yeah. Oh, for like after we launched, what are our first pain points? That's a good question. Mostly just being really nervous. I've never released an app to production like this by myself. So, I haven't had any like hardcore crashes, so thank goodness, knock on wood, right? We did have the 2 things that came up that I can think of. One user couldn't figure out how to sign up. There was basically the UI was giving feedback that kind of misled her, thinking that, oh, my password's good, but it was giving her an error. And anyway, so basically poor UI design and not telling the user exactly what was going on. And there was another one on the restaurant side of things, and this had to do with discounts. Basically, and you can tell the operating system what keyboard to show up, and I didn't realize that when you specify a number keyboard, some operating systems don't give a decimal point on the number keyboard, and so they were having issues putting in discounts. They couldn't use a decimal point, and so I had to go back in and just say, okay, yes, number keyboard with a decimal, and so just some things like that. Yeah, just random little bugs. Question though, scary as heck. I'm still kind of like waiting for something to blow up. What would I have done differently? I probably would have tried harder to get some help. I'm pretty happy with the tech stack that we chose and that we went with. So far, it's still pretty early, but so far I've been happy with it. I probably would have taken some more time talking to excuse me, that peach cobbler's sticking in my throat. I probably would have taken more time to talk to someone who has a lot of experience with document databases, because I didn't have a lot of experience with NoSQL. And so there were a couple of times when I had to refactor and kind of rework some of the structure that I had put together, because I was not as familiar with it. So probably taking time to ask around and get some advice from other people. Yeah. Customers have been actually mostly silent, so I guess that's a good thing. The restaurants or it's just the one restaurant now, but basically it's, hey, I just discovered I need this new feature, or hey, this is a feature that basically like recognizing use cases that weren't thought of beforehand. And yeah, I don't know if does that answer your question? All right. Anyway, so there's 5 minute talk. Thanks.
was awesome, really insightful. Thanks, Tyler. Anybody else with a lightning talk or side project they want to take a minute and show off?